For close to a decade, one of the biggest questions that I've been receiving is, Matt, how do I get off Suboxone or how do I get off Subutex after long-term use, after I've been on it for 3 years, for 7 years, for 10 years, for 18 years? This is a very common question. And a lot of people get to the point where eventually the side effects start to go up. So typically what happens is this: when someone's been on Suboxone or Subutex or another buprenorphine formulation long term, eventually for certain people, the side effects start to go up and the benefits, the medicine efficacy starts to go down. And if there comes a point where they don't feel good, someone's like, the side effects are bad, the benefits are not good, they don't want to go up on their dose, or they do go up on their dose and it doesn't even really help. So at that point, what does a person do? Are they even in shape, in physical and mental, emotional, spiritual shape to be able to do a long-term taper after long-term use? That sounds very daunting to a lot of people. So they continue to use the medicine because it's easier than the thought of even trying to taper off or get down to the bottom. So one thing you can realize right away is that a lot of what Suboxone and Subutex can do, just like any other opioid, is they suppress the endocrine system. So any opioid drug, whether it's natural, semi-synthetic, or synthetic, short-acting or long-acting, they can all do a few things. Number one, they can cause an endocrinopathy. This is a disorder. Methadone causes the worst cases of opioid-induced endocrinopathy, but buprenorphine formulations can do it as well. It's just not as common as the hardcore significant side effects from methadone. But what they do is they lower our sex hormones. So as a man, it's testosterone. I think for females, it's estradiol. And so there's different key sex hormones, the pituitary gland, this endocrine system. And perhaps you'll notice if you've been on Subutex or Suboxone or opioids in general, perhaps you've noticed that they decrease your sex drive. That was certainly the case for me when I started taking short-acting prescription opiates. Then when I got on Suboxone, back then they were the 8 milligram orange tablets, I had no sex drive, no libido whatsoever. I never wanted to make love with my girlfriend. She thought it was something about her when it was me, and I was lying to her. I didn't, I was keeping it hidden that I was even on this medicine. And she would often ask me, why do you have so much cystic acne all over your back? I had cystic acne, and I had really, really bad skin, dry, flaky skin, hot flashes. These were side effects that I got from taking Suboxone. And so I was like, oh, so I got off that stuff quickly. After a few months, I was like, I can't do this anymore. The way I got off after a few months was I switched back over to oxycodone for a few days, or maybe 4 or 5 days. Then I switched to benzodiazepines for a few days, and I was actually able to get off Suboxone. And then 4 months later, I thought, okay, I'm not dependent on opioids anymore. Now I can use responsibly again. And then, from that day forward, there was not a single day that I missed taking opioids. I was using them every day. Within 6 months, I was smoking up to 1 gram to 2 grams of heroin a day, all because even though I had got off very short-term Suboxone, at that point, I thought that I could now use opiates or opioids responsibly, and I just wasn't at that place. Most people don't get to that place. They can be very addictive once you've already been addicted or even dependent on them. So this video is going to be too short to share actual strategies. This is really just a video to start getting people to think about, am I even ready to start to taper off or detox off long-term Suboxone or Subutex or another type of buprenorphine treatment, maintenance treatment? Here's a few ways to know if you're ready. Number one, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to quit? How motivated on a scale of 1 to 10 are you? How much of a must and a resolve and a commitment is it? If it's anything less than a 10, it can be pretty difficult to do the work necessary to free yourself from long-term buprenorphine maintenance treatment. So the motivation to quit needs to be at least a 8 or 9 or a 10, I'd expect. And then also look at your neuroassociations. What I mean by that is this. All humans are so complicated. We're so complex. Our brains are supercomputers. We have eternal souls. But when you boil us down to the common denominators of what makes us do what we do and avoid what we avoid, comes down to the pain and pleasure principle. How as it works is this. Every behavior we do in life is we're always constantly searching for things for pleasure, and we're trying to avoid pain. So any behavior is usually either avoiding a pain of some type or a perceived pain or gaining pleasure or a combination of both of those. And here's how the neuroassociations work. If you still link pleasure to using buprenorphine formulations, for instance, let's say you link a 7 out of 10 pleasure to using buprenorphine, and you link a 10 out of 10 pain to the process of tapering off and quitting and being off the medicine, well, that pain, that higher value to the pain, is going to keep people stuck on it for longer and longer and longer. The best neuroassociations, it's literally what your brain links to this substance is the ultimate way for neuroassociations to make the process of detoxifying and recovering the most fluid, the most consistent, the smoothest, would be to link a 10 out of 10 pain to being on the medicine. So a 10 out of 10 pain to being on the medicine. No benefits whatsoever. It's all pain. And a 10 out of 10 pleasure to not using the medicine. Too many people are stuck on these buprenorphine formulations long term because they're not linking it in those empowering neuroassociations. Oftentimes it will be like, well, they'll link a 3 out of 10 pleasure to being on buprenorphine, but they'll link a 7 out of 10 pain to the process of quitting, to living life without opioids in their system. So as you can see, when people, some days they'll have more motivation, some days they'll have less. It's so easy with these medicines to get stuck on them long term. Why? Because they're so sticky and they're so powerful that they really, really get into your brain and body and blood, and they just stick there. I've heard it referred to before as like heroin combined with Gorilla Glue. And so that's kind of an interesting way to look at it. So long term, it really does not want to come out of your body. So oftentimes people will get to a certain point of tapering, and I call that their personal threshold. The personal threshold is that point in a person's taper that's unique to them, in which tapering any lower than this threshold spot becomes seemingly impossible. Of course, things like supplements, diet, exercise can help, deep tissue massage, hydration, sunlight, proper sleep habits, a good stress management, self-care, lifestyle protocol, and a daily routine, a morning routine. There's lots of different medicines and therapies you can get prescribed from doctors that can help. So again, this video is not to make, it's such a huge topic. I promise I'll do a future video coming up soon that'll be step by step how people can start to begin to figure out what's going to be the best options for either tapering or another type of way to come off, like a medical detox, for example. So I will do a video like that in the near future. But this one's kind of a warm-up video to start thinking about, am I even ready to get off this medicine? You know, the people that I've seen have the most success at either tapering off buprenorphine formulations, or I have a client right now that's going to do the Wiseman method here in Southern California, where they just they put you under general anesthesia and they give you opioid blockers, other medicines for comfort and everything, nausea. And while you're unconscious under general sedation anesthesia, they push all that buprenorphine, the heroin mixed with crazy glue, out of your system. And it's the fastest way to get somebody opioid free regarding out of their body. So there's lots of different ways you can do it. Tapering's the most common way. But for people that have been on it for long term, what if you've been on it for 7 years? What if you've been on it for 10 years and your life is not very good? Like you've got a stressful life, your finances aren't great, you don't have lots of emotional support, for instance, in your health and constitution, is not really good. If all that stuff is floundering, if it's deficient even somewhat, well, that can make the long, arduous process of Suboxone or Subutex, etc., detox and recovery, just it's going to be way too difficult for so many people. So don't worry, because like I said, I am fired up. I love this topic, and I really, really want to help, and I know I can help. So many rad things I've learned over the last almost decade. So if you're on a Suboxone or Subutex or some other type of buprenorphine formulation, drop a comment box or drop a comment box, drop a comment below and ask me any questions you want. Now, what's going to happen is this. From the comment section that piles up at the end of this particular video, those will be all the questions that I'm going to answer in detail on my upcoming video on how to get off Suboxone, how to get off Subutex, how to get off these different buprenorphine combinations, whether it's buprenorphine monotherapy or buprenorphine/naloxone. There's two different types, and there's even the Sublocade monthly injection of buprenorphine. So there's a lot of different buprenorphine formulations. What I want to know from you is, what is your dosage? What's your formulation? How long have you been on it? What are the difficulties that you've had? Drop some questions there. What do you want to know specifically? I already have a cool idea of how I'm going to do this, but this is your chance to co-create this video, co-create this tutorial with me, so you and I can learn from each other and help each other. And with that, we can create something profound and extraordinary, very helpful, that actually has a huge potential to help lots of people uncuff themselves from the chains of buprenorphine dependence. I'm Matt with Opiate Addiction Support and Elevation Recovery. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.